Welcome to Maelstrom Radio presents Here With Me, a series about the stories people want to share about their journeys with mental illness, trauma, and negative thoughts. We are not professionals, nor are we a substitute for their professional diagnosis or treatments. Please enjoy Here With Me. This episode, I'm sitting down with Sarah Timono from Phoenix Town Radio, and we're going to discuss Sarah's story and mental health and some of my story as well. Welcome, Sarah.
Hey there.
Welcome to the mini-series. This is different for us, but as you know, mental health is very important, and I think that even as Final Fantasy XIV or gamers in general, I think we all tend to shy away from speaking about it sometimes on our own shows. So I feel that we can use this platform or my platform and the mini-series as a way to kind of open up the discussion.
Yeah, I feel like it's something that even as much as people talk about the importance of talking about it, there's still this huge stigma around it, still a lot of stuff around that. So just having opportunities to discuss these issues, get them out there, not even as just as, hey, this is something that happens and it's normal to some degree. It maybe not great, but it's not that strange.
It's and you're absolutely right. Do you have a story you want to share or anything that's going on with you?
So I don't know that I have a full-on narrative story per se. I was diagnosed about a year and a half ago with major depressive disorder. It mostly comes in episodes rather than being an all-the-time thing. So sometimes there'll be like a period of several weeks or a month or so where everything's good. And then there'll be some time, a few weeks or longer, where getting out of bed or remembering to take a shower or eating more than maybe a couple pita chips is a little bit of a struggle. It is something that I'm now managing with medication, though that took a while to get comfortable with for a lot of different reasons. And it's also something that I was doing therapy for a while. At the moment, I'm not currently doing therapy, most for reasons I can get into, but it's something that if I did feel the need to go back for, I'm prepared to do. I also have friends who work in the mental health field, several who work as therapists and the like, so I've discussed a lot of these issues with them, and it's something that I've spent a bit of time thinking about and working on my thoughts and opinions about.
Awesome.
Yeah.
You mentioned like you're not going to therapy currently. Like I am still.
Right.
Do you feel like you're pretty off and like in the perfect world, we'll never say we're perfect, but do you feel like you're managing pretty well now based on like your medication and where things you're at?
Yeah. So, I mean, the big things that happened were like I had been going to therapy regularly for quite a while, and was something where I learned a lot of tools for how to handle and approach my feelings, the problems that I had. I'd been, it had reached the point where for most of it was just like, okay, I'm checking in. There's nothing special to report. These things happen. This is how I was managing it. So a lot of it was just touch-up type stuff. And then I actually had a change in my insurance that was coming up. And so it was going to be something where I was considering, do I need to look for a new therapist, or am I at a point where I feel like I can maintain? And so as part of the wrap-up procedures with my previous therapist, when we talked about this, we reached a conclusion that, yeah, I'm kind of in a good place. I've got the tools. This is something where I don't necessarily need regular check-ins on that. I don't need like weekly or every other week check-ins for that kind of maintenance. But if it was something where I needed some reminders or I was having an especially tough time, then I could go and look at seeing a therapist for that. It's kind of like with a doctor. Like, you may have some serious condition going on where you want to be checking in regularly, or you may get to the point where, hey, things are mostly good. You know that you should be exercising more and maybe eating a little less red meat, and you can just come in once every 6 months or a year or something.
And I get that. Like right now, my therapist is having me learn how to stop and start to realize my surroundings and listen to my body and kind of split my mind so that I can start better resonating with people, not only my surroundings, but with people.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Sounds kind of cognitive behavioral therapy-ish.
Yes.
Good stuff, that.
Yes. So a part of it is that I'm very logical, but I also process things very, very quickly and react. And she wants me to slow down. And for me, slowing down is probably better with me trying to split my mind into, all right, I'm hearing sounds. I'm like paying attention to the sound, and then also paying attention to the visual thing. Like things where we, as humans, happen automatically, I have to start paying attention to it. Where like, you know, we walk, we hear, we listen, we see, we taste, we touch, we feel, and that's all kind of like auto drive, right? Like unless we're like purposely going to pay attention, like, oh, okay, I'm gonna specifically taste this meal I'm cooking for seasoning purposes. So you start to focus in on it. Where now I have to stop and try to like make sure I start to focus in on it, and she's trying to get me to a point where I can walk and do it at the same time, which is super interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. Just as humans, we can take in and process an incredible amount of information. And a lot of that is done without even conscious intervention. I mean, think about sitting here, all the sense data you're taking in, the feel of light breezes on your skin, how every bit of your clothing that's touching your skin and the tactile input that's providing, temperature, various light things, all of that is coming in, and almost none of it is being paid conscious attention to, unless there's something that comes up where it's like, hey, this needs actual thinking about. It's processed practically automatically by a lot of these lower brain systems, which is really handy for some stuff. But then when you've got these bad patterns of how you handle a particular type of situation or how you approach things, if you've got these like I have stuff where I love my parents, but they also modeled some not great behaviors on stuff. And I know that I'll jump right back to those in a crisis situation or if I'm not thinking about it. So taking that moment to actually step out, consciously process the data instead of letting it go to this automatic system that I know has some issues.
Yeah, it's it is a oop, and I had my phone on. Damn it. Oh well.
No worries.
I will edit that out.
We'll get that in post.
Yes. For me, a lot of it like sensory wise, prior to my breakthrough with my dad, sensory wise, I was all off. I was all over the map. Like I would, and it would cause me to like react almost viscerally, like almost and most people thought like he's just reacting based on emotion, and maybe that is, but I think almost it was a sensory overload for myself, and I would take things in all at once and just explode out, sometimes in anger, jealousy, like, and things like that. And far be it from me to be the person to be those things. Like I don't want to be that, like, you know, there's, and I say it best as I was just desensitized to my depression and what was going on for so long that I let that take the wheel, and it kind of ran the show. When it runs the show, it's not great.
Yeah, it's kind of like when it's going on for long enough, it's like, oh, I guess this is normal. And having those moments where you're talking to someone else about it, actually thinking and processing through and being like, I guess that's not how it works for everyone, is it?
Yeah.
Like I've had discussions with my dad where he's talking about, it's like, well, it's this thing, and so you worry about this. It's like, this thing that we did in our family, that's not how it worked in most families. That's not actually normal. We were just weird and kind of broken. I always hate to call someone broken because it implies all these other things, but the stuff we were doing was not working. And it was not actually a reasonable, sane thing that everyone does. But it's so easy to tell yourself that.
you're absolutely right, and I'm guilty of that. I'm like the first person to admit, like I was guilty of saying like I'm broken. I was broken, and
Right.
and in the same thing, like I think a lot of usually, at least with like yourself and myself and maybe a few others that I'm gonna have these conversations with, it'll all point back to childhood, and sometimes it was great for my father to own up to everything, but I have to think like there may be people out there that didn't get a chance, like their parent passed away before they got to make that, to confront them, or they don't at all, like they just push them away and say I have to learn how to get past this without their input. Like I'm probably on the rare side of things where I got lucky. So
yeah, it's something where a lot of people just have to kind of try to make what sense they can out of it, where there's not necessarily a deeper underlying meaning. It's whatever meaning you can take out of it.
Yeah,
which is kind of hard.
It is hard, and like for me before that time, like even when I was younger, I think like the biggest thing was that I always kept telling myself, I don't want to be like my dad. I don't want to be like my dad. I don't want to be like my dad. And then I became like my dad.
I think my dad did the same thing with his dad. My grandfather was a piece of work.
And
like they're different in a. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Like they're different in a lot of ways. There's a lot of stuff where my dad really actively tried to be a very different person, but then there's some stuff with like some of the ways that they approach things, certain types of problems, or the jokes that they make and that he keeps making long after it stops being funny. It's often the times I've noticed when he's the most stressed, when he's not necessarily actively thinking about it and just reverting back to those behaviors that he saw modeled over and over.
Yeah, I was talking to my friend from high school who remembers, and she was around during that, like especially like that time before I think I kind of shut down, and she remembers around. She wants. I think I pushed it down. Like that's the funny thing. Like she remembered it clear as day. I didn't, and I think it's because I had bottled it up so long and put it away. That it was my 17th birthday, and like her parents got me a cake and got me a card, and her parents like bought a new house specifically with an extra room because they wanted me to move in. Like they were trying to. They were on the verge of like, once he's 18, like we want him to live with us because they were so worried about my home life. They wanted to have me to have a better family life, and
right.
I was 17, and I was about to turn 18, and I was like, all right, I'm 18, like, I was about to turn 17. I was like, all right, 17, like, cool. My parents will more than likely like call me at least and say happy birthday, and I go home and nobody's home, which was the average. It's like, all right, well, nobody's home, and then like no call from either parent. My mom ended up giving me like a card like 3 weeks later. She's like, oh, I forgot to give you your card, and my dad just forgot, like never. And
ouch.
I was devastated. Like I was just devastated because I was like so hyped. I was like, yeah, it's my birthday. Like everybody else, like her parents remembered. Like they had the cake there. They invited my friends over and stuff like that, and like threw me apart. Like, and it was sad. She said it was sad to see me so happy one day with the cake and everything, and then ultimately defeated.
Right.
And she said it was a great, like this great twist, and she said, and then she's like, that's when she pinpointed exactly. She's like, that was the very moment. She's like, I won't be like my father. I won't be like him. I would never forget my son's birthday,
Right.
And she's like, she told me that she's like, and then 10 years you're your father. 10 years you're just your father.
Right. Because I mean, like, one of the things I'm hearing in that is that you really wanted your parents to be these certain people, these people who would remember your birthday and care about these things that are important to you. Where even if they might say, oh yeah, we love him, we care about him, they don't necessarily do this thing that's really important to you for showing that. And so like you wanted them to be these really different people, and they weren't. And that sounds like it would be really devastating.
It sucked. It did. Like once I remembered it, I remember like how much it sucked. Like it hurt. And I kind of like I think that was the point where I started slowly telling myself like I really don't need anybody. And once I think I set that in place, I think that was it. Like that's when that journey started, and that journey of I don't need anybody happened, and then it became, you're right, and it became my normal. It became my, and then it eventually became desensitized because I kept telling myself I don't need anybody.
Right. And it's like, that's such an easy story to tell yourself. And there's like this thing at the core of it of like, I don't want to need anybody. I don't want to be in this position where I'm vulnerable to being hurt this way. Like needing people and wanting, caring about what your parents did and thought was this thing that made you vulnerable and made you get hurt. And so you didn't want to have that. And that doesn't have anything to do with whether you actually can be that person, but we very much often want things that we can't have. So it's not going to keep you from wanting it.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And it was super tough, and I remember like having to sit down and actually take time to reflect, like really, really reflect on the past years. I could think back to times where like internally I was telling myself, you don't need to push these people away. They care about you. They genuinely want you to be a better person, like genuinely want to get you help. They genuinely want to be a part of your life. And I would find ways or kinks in their armor to get them out. And it sucked because I, like, you could see, like, I could think back and like I hurt a lot of people, not in a vicious or malicious way. Like I would just hurt them as people, and then they would, you know, like, well, I'm not going to be his friend or be around him if he's going to be this way. So see ya, I guess. And then...
Yeah, it's something where I had experiences like that as well. And I've talked with my dad about his experiences he had similar, where it's like, hey, this is what I want to do. It's like, I want to be able to talk to people about these things. I want to be able to be this close. I have no idea how that actually looks like in practice. How the hell do you talk to someone like this? Where we can want this all we want, but oftentimes, especially if we've had that really bad modeling of stuff in our formative years in the environment we grew up in, we don't really know how to do that. I remember one of the things, I did group therapy stuff for a while as well, and one of the things that we ended up doing a lot was just role playing and trying to walk through conversations and talk with others as we were doing it, just to build up different ways for, okay, like if you want to talk to someone about your feelings, this is how it works. This is how listening to other people works. Stuff that when you say it that way, it sounds like, oh, it's such a basic social skill, but it's still a skill. It's still something that needs to be learned and practiced. And so often you just don't have the tools.
Yeah. You nailed it right on the head. And when other people try to help you get those tools or want to help you achieve those goals that you want to set, like I'm going to get better, or like they see it in you, like he's got the ability, like I can teach, I have those skills, I can help him, and then and you turn on him, it's not great.
Yeah, there's a reason that therapists get master's degrees. This is not that easy to teach, and you really don't want it to be done by someone you're close to. It's better when it's someone who's not directly involved in your shit, who doesn't have a personal stake in it. Like, it lets them have the distance to actually look at it and see, hey, this is what's going on. These are the patterns that I'm observing. Does that sound right to you? Like, doing that with someone you're close to, that's fucking hard.
It is very hard. And that, you know, I don't think either of us are saying like don't lean on your friends or your family. Like, I mean, if you're hurting or if you feel like you need of help, please, you know, go reach out to friends and family. But remember, they're not, like, just like Sarah and I are not experts. They're not experts unless they have a master's degree in therapy, I guess. But
and even then, like, as a general thing, I think a lot of them get taught, you do not therapize your friends and your family.
Yeah.
Like when I was at some of my hardest points, a friend of mine who was a therapist, the main thing she did was ask a couple of questions. I was like, hey, it's like, I've noticed this. Is this something you've ever considered? And she was encouraging me in a way that actually worked, where no one else had been able to do it before, just with the stuff she was pointing out, noticing, like, to talk to a therapist who was not her. Because she knew, it's like, I know Jeff too well. I'm entangled in all these things. I cannot be an effective therapist for him.
Yeah. Even my therapist told me, she's like, even I had my own like darkness that she's like, I was dealing with. She's like, and I still deal with sometimes. And she's like, and she always said, she's like, it's learning how to cope and deal with it so that it doesn't present itself on an outward platform towards others. And, you know, for her, it was, she plays tennis, so it comes out on the courts, and she's very aggressive. And
interesting.
Yeah. And it was very, very interesting talk. And and she's like, for you, it's very much, you know, if you feel like you have connections with people and you start to tell yourself this lie that they don't belong, you start to generate your own despair and hate and anger towards them, so that you find, you know, these like little things that you can pick up on. She even said, she's like, you're great at reading people. She's like, that is a wonderful thing to have. You have the gift of gab. You can read people. Because the problem is that you are good at it, but you use it against yourself, not to help yourself. And she's like, if somebody tells you X, you're gonna play. And her and I described it as like kind of like I was playing chess, and I was always trying to be 3 moves ahead of everybody.
Mm.
And so like,
because then you're in a position of power. You can't get hurt if you're the one with control over it.
Yep.
Yeah, that was one thing that came up a lot in a lot of discussions as well, about the dynamics of power and a lot of things that goes into, and going around this, trying to avoid being hurt. It was this really interesting thing. Don't know that we have time to go into all of that. That would be in a separate show in and of itself. But the dynamics of power in those relationships are really fascinating.
They are. And it is so weird when like that shift in power can happen. And I think a lot of my struggle is with I had a friend, and the power would shift because I would try to like tell myself like I don't want to hurt this person, so the power would shift back onto them, and then we'd be okay for a bit, and then I'd shift back, and then I'd be like, nope, gonna screw this, like here it goes. So it made things very, very difficult. And like, and you know, now it's, you know, this goes for anybody listening, like, you just know that it's hard to come back from that, because even though you can come back and say, hey, I'm sorry, and I've worked on a lot of things, and I've changed, and I'm still working, and I'm still changing and growing as a person every day, they may still see you for what you've done, and that is always hard. But the best advice I can give you, because I'm learning it now, is don't beat yourself up over it. Let them show, first of all, 2 things. Sorry is nothing without change. Like, you need to show change. You need to show them that you've worked out things, and that's going to take time. And the other thing that's going to take time is them seeing that you've actually changed, and seeing that you've made those differences. I'm lucky that... Go ahead.
And it's something where it's like, you can't expect it to necessarily go back to the same relationship it was before, because stuff has changed. It doesn't mean you can't have a good relationship. It's just going to be a different one. I think I've seen a lot of cases where people get hung up on, it's like, oh, we need to get it back to exactly where it was. It's like you can't unring a bell. It's going to be different. That doesn't mean it's going to be that bad, but it is going to be different. And accepting that's like, okay, these are new boundaries. This is the new form of things. Like, those are the ones where I've had the most success, where it's like I can start to understand and accept that things are different. Be like, okay, what's this new thing we're going to build that's works a little bit differently, but works for us?
Yeah. And that's probably that's great that you're saying that's great advice as well, because really, like, I don't want the same relate because I wasn't like I couldn't trust I was that person. Or, like, I couldn't even trust that the things I said to this person. I was like I couldn't trust myself, and I don't want to have.
Yeah.
I don't want that to be the basis of this new friendship. And I'd rather be the basis be a positive one and a better one because I want them to see me in a better light, and that can speak volumes to people. Like I'd rather you see me in this new light because that can change everything. Because things they may have not felt may change, and they could be a better friend this time. Or like even though you were close, like you could be close friends, you could be even closer friends, and that's I think that's a great way. So you don't lose hope out. Like don't be like, well, they're all just gonna be an arm length friendship. Like it's gonna take time. Like but you have to like if you want it, like if you feel like, hey, I want this friendship with this person, and they also say, hey, listen, like I'm willing to give you the time, but you just have to be amicable and just let it naturally, like just like anything else, relationships take time and should be naturally progressing. Like don't force anything to happen.
I really want to highlight something you said there because I think it's really good. This idea that's like, hey, this old relationship, it was between this person that you were being, and your friend. And you don't want to be that person. So if you're trying to have that old relationship, you're still trying to be that old person. Mm-hmm. I think that's a really useful insight there. So I definitely want to highlight.
Thank you. It's true. Like I don't ever want to return to being that person because that person hurt a lot of people, and not just them, a lot of other people as well. And it was hard. Like it's like for me, I'll call me a softie, whatever. Like, and I know some people, I will always carry those things I did, and not as guilt or as a punishment to myself, but as reminders of where I'm going to. Like I don't want to, I don't want those actions to ever happen again because I saw what those actions did. You know, it's one of those things where like I've made my bed, I'll bear my cross sort of situation. But I'm not gonna sit there and every day and just say like, well, I'm just depressed about it and I'm gonna just carry it with me. It's not that. It's more of a, this is what I did, this is what I'm working towards, so I don't do these things again, and these people deserve better, and I'm gonna give them better. So, and myself. It'd be like
it'd be like if something bad happened that was external. It's like, okay, suppose I crash and wreck my car. It's like I'm in my car by the side of the road. It's like, well, that sucked. Okay, what am I gonna do now? It's like, this sucks, but it is also what I am dealing with. So it's like, how am I gonna go forward given that this did happen? I can't make it unhappen, but I can at least figure out, okay, how should I handle things now? This happened, so what do I need to do to get safe, to protect myself, to get a new car? Like, I feel it's maybe a little glib choosing an example like that, but if you've got something that happened outside of you, that's the way you'd handle it. You'd be like, well, that sucked, but I'm not going to sit around bemoaning my car forever. I'm going to figure out, okay, what's next? This sucks. What do we do?
Yeah. And you always remember your first car crash, right? Like you always remember like
yeah.
You always remember it and you're like, well, that happened. But then you've moved on. You got a new car, you got all this.
Yeah. And thinking about it, like when I drive, there are definitely some things I'm a bit more careful and watchful about. Also, it wasn't a crash, but I did once get a massive ticket for not fully stopping when making a right turn on red. And oh my God, can you believe that I stopped fully before each one? It was like, yeah, it sucked. It's not something where I'm like beating myself about it forever, but it is definitely shaping how I drive. I'm a lot more careful about some things.
Yeah.
I like that metaphor. I'm keeping that.
I'm glad we got a couple we got a metaphor out of it. But it's good. I mean, it's good because yet again, if you're listening to this and you're dealing with what I'm dealing with or not what I'm dealing with, and you're going through your battles or journey, you know, just take a second and take a step back and, you know, just tell yourself, you know, the person I am now is not going to be the person I am tomorrow. And the person in the day after that is going to be a better person. And then you can start telling those people like, listen, you know, and I'm guilty of it. Like I've always been the person that's like, give me another chance. Even like, cause like I said, like internally there's a little voice that's like, well, I'm not that bad of a person. Try and like, but you know, big brain takes over. Then it's just game over. So if you're like me, where you've made those consistent, I'm sorry, and I mess up, and I'm sorry, and I mess up, you may have to like take a step back and say, listen, I know what I've done. I know it's not easy to sit here and I won't even ask for it. Like I didn't, like I sat down and said, I'm not gonna, I will apologize to you. I don't expect you to give me forgiveness. I said, all I can do is say, you know, I can ask you to give me time and, you know, take time for yourself to see if things change. But, you know, and your first step is always going to be, you know, if you haven't gotten the help yet, is take a step back first and say, what can I do to start myself on this path so I don't ruin the relationships I have in my life? Like, and that's, I think, a big thing for me is that I've done this for 10 years and I've lived a very, very lonely life. Like I'm very grateful for people in my life that have stuck around and for various different reasons, and whether they're very patient with me, like Shin, who's very, very, very patient with me, and he's my best friend. So
great guy.
Yes. Who told me a few weeks ago, gave me the best advice that I think I needed to hear. He didn't tell me what I wanted to hear. He told me what I needed to hear was that.
Ooh, very good friend.
Yes. And he's like, you've done so much for so other people. And he's like, regardless if it was because you wanted to feel needed, he's like, you did a lot of good. He's like, for charities, for the people that we know, the friends that we know, you did a lot of good. And it's time for you to focus on yourself. Don't worry about me. Don't worry about anyone else. He's like, you need to focus on you. And he was right. Like, if I tried to bring up anything that was up with him, he wouldn't even take the time to like acknowledge it.
Yeah. Sometimes that can be a way to kind of take the focus off yourself and avoid thinking about these things. Yeah. I've certainly done my share of charity work as displacement activity.
And
not a great habit.
Yeah, no. I mean, we did a lot of good. Like we like anybody that's listened or watched our show or supported us through Extra Life and then the live stream that we did last year, like, you know, that we, like, it was all from a place of good. We were trying to do some good, but it was also a reason for me to be like, all right, I can spend 24 hours not thinking about me and do it to help kids or help, you know, stop cyberbullying. And like, it took the focus off me. And even if it was just that one day, it was one day less I had to think about what was going on internally.
Right.
And it's the same with other people. Like, you may be like me, where you go to others and you're like, you need help. You need to, like, not focusing, not helping yourself, but helping others and pushing what you need off to the side.
Yeah. I remember, you reminded me of, I remember one time a friend was, he was moving. I had offered to help him move. And it turned out I wasn't actually very good at lifting a lot of things. I was not very strong. I didn't know where a lot of stuff went. And as time went on, it's just kind of, I was kind of I was mostly in the way of other people who were more experienced and knew a bit more of what they were doing. And I was so focused on, I need to be helpful, I need to be helping, that I wasn't considering whether I actually was helpful here. And like, probably the most useful thing I could have done would be to step back and be like, okay, make sure people are getting water. Hey, maybe I could take care of ordering some pizza for this. But I wanted to be involved in this really active, visceral way on my own terms. And it became something where it was clearly more about my need to help than about what actually helped my friend.
Yeah. Yeah.
I do hope one thing that people will take away from this, hearing you talk about it, is this idea that's like, I know myself, I know others who have gotten this idea of like, oh, I'm this terrible person, I've done these bad things, Trinity is kind of hopeless. Oh, this is what I am, this is what I will be. And being able to see, it's like, you can be like, people who have that kind of thing in their past, in their present, can still build this better life for themselves, can still like learn these things, work on these better models, that it's not something where, oh, this is just the nature of who you are, that you do have a lot of agency in trying to figure out what sort of life you want to lead.
Yeah, it's never too late.
Yeah.
I'll be 34.
It's hard, don't get me wrong.
Yeah. I'll be 34, like, and if if you're younger than me, by all means, go get it now.
No.
Like go.
I'm older than you, but by a year. Ooh,
yeah, but
2 years in a couple weeks.
But don't you?
But yeah,
feel,
like,
I was gonna say, don't you feel very relieved that you're like, hey, at least I now, even regardless of how many years, we have a short amount of time on this planet, but regardless of how much time we have on this planet, I'd rather have that time filled with, I'm living the best life that I can lead. I'm happy, and the others, and I can support not only myself and my happiness, but also surround myself with amazing people that are also happy, that support me.
And like, my parents only really started on this stuff in the last 3 or 4 years, mostly after they saw me starting on it, which was like the nicest thing that I could have heard. That's like, hey, me doing this started to inspire them to be like, okay, maybe we can work on our own thing. And they're certainly a lot older. They certainly have fewer years left. But I mean, as long as you've got any time left, you might as well make it not suck, right?
Yeah, absolutely. My stepmom made my dad go to get therapy because she wanted to save their relationship. But that's why he was so willing to sit down and be like, you know what, son, you're right, I own everything. And it's
also, oh, go ahead.
It's a great, having that be unprovoked or like begging or saying, hey, Dad, in order for me to get my breakthrough in therapy, I need you to own this. It wasn't that at all. Like, it was very, very eye-opening and cathartic.
Right. It's definitely something where some of it is a little easier as you get older. I know that, like, just in terms of brain development, that doesn't stop until our mid-20s, which is why you can have otherwise perfectly brilliant seeming high school and college students who do the stupidest shit. Like, decision-making lobes in the brain do not actually finish developing for another few years. So I can get a lot of it being, hey, you're just not there yet, or a lot of it was also having enough experiences that I could look back on and start to be like, oh, hey, I was doing this when this happened. Oh, hey, there seems to be a pattern here. There's another 3 things that fit into that. Having enough stuff to look back and start being able to put together those patterns.
Yeah.
So I think it gets easier as you get older.
It does.
Or at least it can get easier. I've certainly also known my share of people who are in their 50s and 60s who are still acting like high schoolers, so...
I've seen that as well.
Yeah. It's no guarantee, but it at least... From what I've seen, it seems to get a little easier as you get older.
Absolutely.
Still takes work, though.
Yeah, it does. So it's always going to take work, but the work is worth it in the end, honestly.
Oh, yeah.
So worth it.
Mm-hmm. I like the me I am a lot better now.
You're a great guy.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. I mean, we talked.
You're awesome too.
Thank you. We talked previously, like not just before this episode, like maybe a few days ago, and and lucky as I am, I've been talking to a few other people, but it's great getting not only that comfort but also insight from people saying, hey, listen, like, I may not I may have not gone through what you went through exactly, but I'm here, I hear you, I understand, and I'm here to support you. And it's great. It's just great to have that support system.
I think one of the things that helped me a lot was that idea of building a support system, a support network. Not just like, hey, these people are my friends, because I've got people who are friends, but these are people who specifically are good for support in this type of thing, who can be this support system. So it's not just being a friend, like that's an important quality, but there's other stuff to it as well. And there are people who I love and care about who are great people who are not really great as a support network, and that's not a knock against them. It's just not what I need for that support. But that concept of, hey, there are these people I can reach out to and talk to and get support, get that insight, get those other things, that was also a really major game changer, I think.
Yeah. It did. It helped. It helped the days I wasn't in therapy, or the gap in between therapy sessions. Sometimes it made it. It made it all the difference. Like if I felt like I just needed like not even like I need to talk about my issues, but even just like, hey, I just need to pick me up, and then just like that 10-minute, 15, 20-minute chat would make all the difference in my day, and it was great.
I had a couple friends where it was just essentially, I need to get out for a bit. Can we just like go to the mall and walk around and look at stuff? And they knew it was because like, hey, not doing so well, needs a little bit of time. It is a support network thing. But I wasn't necessarily asking them to listen to my problems, just be like, hey, someone I can spend some time with and do something that's going to help me relax a little bit and get myself into a better headspace.
Yep.
Like there's lots of different forms that your support network can take.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we're coming up on the 45-minute mark. Sarah, is there anything you want to share with anybody, or anything you want to say before we end this episode?
I mean, I'm sure it's been talked about before, but just a reminder that there are mental health resources that are available to all populations, all incomes. If you're in the United States, your county or parish in some places, which is a county but with a different name, will generally have a mental health support line that is there to connect you with resources in your area, therapists, other things like that. It's something where there are options for, and it is also something where I understand it is totally hard to make that call. I had to be sitting next to a friend while I did it. So I don't fault you for it being hard, but it's a resource that's out there. It's something where anyone who I hope is in that kind of situation will make use of. There's a lot out there. I guess I mostly want people to feel like, hey, you're not necessarily alone in this. There are people who want to help you out. You're worth this.
You absolutely are. If Sarah's worth it and I'm worth it, you're worth it as well.
People in general are pretty decent. They're trying their best.
Yep. Every day. Well, Sarah, I want to thank you so much. Do you want to plug anything before you go?
Oh, Klaus is going to like murder me if I don't mention Phoenix Down Radio. We're on iTunes, Stitcher, a bunch of other podcast services. He always does this talk. I mostly just write the lore segments. But we do a live show every other week, and then we package that up into a podcast format as well. Twitch.tv/Phoenix Down Radio. And then there's probably a bunch of other things for that Klaus knows these things. I am on Twitter at FFXIVSEYRR, where I mostly tweet things that I cooked recently or funny stuff that I found working at the library.
It's true. I've seen it with my own eyes. Of course, you can find us at Maelstrom Radio. It's Maelstrom_radio, and also our website, maelstromradio.com. If you... Our DMs are open, so if you want to reach out to us, please reach out to us. We will be happy to listen to you. If you need a sounding board, come find us and say hi, or if you just need, or if this helps you, or if you're looking for resources and you don't know where to look, come reach out, and we'll be happy to help you in any way we can. I want to thank Sarah, and this has been episode 2 of Decade of Darkness. Episode 3 is going to have Paul Metal from Moo Go Around Radio. Sarah, thank you again for coming on, and you have a good day.
All right, thank you for having me. This was wonderful.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for listening to Here With Me. Please stay tuned for more episodes in the series.